Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today is Steve Cavendish. He's the president and editor of the new Nashville Banner. Steve, let's continue to talk about the 5th District race. Beth Harwell did not run a very good campaign. She finished a sort of poor 4th when she ran for governor 4 years ago. And there have been some criticisms about that, at least early on with her campaign for Congress, that didn't seem to be going anywhere.
I actually thought this campaign has been a little bit sharper than her governor's run. The ads have been sharper, and part of that is that she's a known quantity in the district as opposed to having to kind of introduce herself statewide. But I thought that she's done a pretty good job. It's going to be tough because there's so much money flowing in. There's so many attack ads right now that I think that was going to naturally muddy up anybody in the field, much less somebody who has had as high a position as she has.
There are lots of attack ads, but it's very interesting to note that her campaign so far, I think this is right, may be the only one that the campaign is actually running some of the attacks. Mostly those come from outside groups. Does that mean something? Is that important that when the campaign pays for it, it signals something about how the campaign looks at the people they're attacking?
Well, it's this gets a little bit back to what you said at the top of the show, in that new 5th, all of Maury County is in there, and Ogles has been a popular figure down in Maury County, and certainly he's going to carry a lot of votes down there, and I think that the Harwell campaign definitely sees him as their biggest threat.
All the GOP candidates mention President Trump in some manner or fashion. Do you sense, though, there's not quite the enthusiasm or the big hug and I'm his best friend that we saw in the campaigns the Republicans ran in this state in 2016, 2018, and 2020?
And I think that if you look around the country at kind of how Trump is endorsed, it hasn't been as sharp of a machine as it has been in the past, and I think that all their policies are aligned with Trump, and they can say, I want to build Trump's wall, I want to do X or Y, and they don't necessarily have to embrace the president.
At this point, do you have a feeling for what President Trump might do? He has made some late endorsements in some of these races. He endorsed Ortega's earlier. She obviously got kicked off the race. She had endorsed Winstead, although she has not had a high profile in that. She's not done an ad for that or something like that. Is it likely or even possible that the former president will endorse between now and Election Day?
I mean, it's interesting, with so many people voting early these days, it would be fascinating to see the president endorse after essentially half the hay's in the barn, wouldn't it?
You lose your stinger by that, because sometimes it's as much as 60%.
Right.
So we want to make a guess as to what kind of a winning majority it'll take, or what the percentage is going to be, because unlike what we're going to see next year in Metro's elections, all the state elections, all the federal elections, at least in Tennessee, do not require a runoff. You've got to get just one more vote than anybody else. It's not like you got to get 50% plus one. Are we looking at a ceiling for the winning candidate as high as 40%, or looking more down to
if somebody gets more than 40%, I'd be really fascinated. I mean,
25 to 30%.
25 to, I think the winning number is going to be in the 30s, and then somebody else is going to be close, and then the rest of that field, because of the other 6 candidates that are in the race. And somebody's gonna write in Robbie Starbuck's name at some point too. That's a big field, and those bottom 6 candidates have no hope of winning, but they do have some supporters, and so you're going to see certain percentage points coming off the race.
With such a low percentage for whoever wins that. Any possibility the party won't be united going into November? Will the nominee have to work harder to do that? Do the Democrats have a chance?
I don't think. I don't think so. That district was, depending on how you looked at it, was a 55-45 Trump district. The question for that district and for the 7th is going to be, how's it going to trend in the next 10 years? I don't think for this cycle it's going to be a big deal.
Steve Cavendish is our guest. We're talking about the August 4th election coming up next Thursday. We're talking about the 5th district. We'll go to other races after this break. Stay with us on Inside Politics.